Fire control lock. Not a warning, an intent to kill. At 6:42 a.m., a Chinese J-20 lit up a US P-8 Poseidon 142 miles east of Taiwan. The crew answered with law, not panic. They held course, kept collecting data, and watched their sensors flicker under directed interference. But then came the squeeze. Two J-20s formed a pincer, wake turbulence close. In the next 40 seconds, the Poseidon either breaks the lock, or becomes a statistic. How do you defeat a stealth fighter without firing a shot? Stay with me. The answer is heat, light, and a vertical plunge. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great! Thank you so much. Now, back to the video. You hear the tone snap from search to kill. Fire control lock. What would you do with seconds to act and no weapons on board? The geometry is ugly. A P-8 rides at recon altitude, straight and level, sensors out, while two J-20s slide in from high and aft, offset left and right, noses canted down. Below, gray hulls track in parallel, planned destroyers shadow the corridor, their arrays sweeping in wide arcs. You're a surveillance jet in an airliner body. They're stealth fighters with teeth. The J-20s start to pulse. Fire control radar blooms, drops, blooms again. Directed interference rides on top like grit in the air.
But you know what? No matter what he is, we're going to handle it, folks.
On Twitter, he denounced Mr. Kim as a madman.
Authority of the world's biggest nuclear power.
On Friday, North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un described President Trump as a mentally deranged dotard. North Korea's Minister of Foreign Affairs addressed the UN Saturday.
What else could be a bigger threat?
The ESM rack shows it in waves, emissions suppress, reappear, hop bands, then try to cage the Poseidon into a tight box. Displays lag a beat. A clean track becomes a smear, then a ghost, then snaps back. You feel it in your hands before you see it on glass. A lock is not a look. It's math with intent. A fire control array doesn't watch, it solves. It builds a firing solution, angle, range, closure, lead, then tells you you're inside the window where a shot is valid. That's the shift from intercept to lethal threat. You don't guess that moment. The jet tells you with a hard tone and a steady diamond that starts to walk toward your nose. On the radio, a flat voice draws a line across open sky, declares a security zone, and orders a turn. The US crew answers with law, cites international airspace, and stays on task. While they talk, the racks keep drinking signal, radar fingerprints, pulse patterns, hop logic, bits the ALQ-240 can chew on later. The mission continues through the noise. One J-20 flashes across the nose, close enough to cut wake. The jet hits ruffled air that wants to tip you. It's a non-kinetic shove, hard enough to bait a mistake, not enough to trigger weapons. The wingman slides in on the other side, angles converging, their envelopes overlapping. You are being herded. This is an electronic duel, and it feels like losing a sense. Data arcs stutter. Tracks ghost and double.
None other than Trump himself is on a suicide mission.
Responding to President Trump's UN speech last week,
Then the violent remarks such as pouring, fire and fury, total destruction, coming from the top.
American bombers and fighter jets flew off the coast of North Korea today in a show of force.
The crew calls crosschecks in a clipped cadence, primary radar, ESM, inertial, alt-tape, anything to hold a stable picture. You fly the scan, not the fear. You keep the jet within margins while the board tries to take away your eyes. The pincer tightens. Floodlights blaze from above, white cones washing the cockpit. That glare kills depth and pushes workload into the red. The envelopes overlap. They want you to turn the wrong way, show a broadside, drift up into their cone. The Poseidon calls for help, squawks higher power on the net, and sets the cockpit for a non-kinetic brake. No missiles. No guns. You have heat, light, and gravity.
Continue the escalating war of words.
He may be smart, he may be strategic, and he may be totally crazy. Rocket Man should have been handled a long time ago.
At a campaign rally in Alabama later that same day, President Trump...
It was the furthest north of the demilitarized zone between North and South Korea that U.S. warplanes have flown in the 21st century.
The choice lands in your lap like a weight: hold altitude and ride the lock, or go vertical and gamble that their cone is thin and their timing is off. The crew arms a test-only tool, the emergency heat suppression flares meant for missile detection drills. Not standard in an intercept, but the bay doesn't care why it's open. The countermeasure is simple: flood the sky with hotter, noisier targets for a heartbeat. Flares spit. A string of bright heat blooms, each one a decoy that steals attention from anything tracking in the infrared band or fusing radar with heat cues. In that same beat, the pilot yanks the nose down and commits. The Poseidon pitches into a steep dive, trades altitude for time, and starts a 5,000-foot drop in under 40 seconds. Structural limits are real, but the profile is clean and deliberate.
The Pentagon says that it was in response to North Korea's, quote, reckless behavior. This unfolding shortly before North Korea had its say at the UN General Assembly in New York City, escalating its war of words with President Trump. Here's Paula Reed.
Angle, speed, roll, controlled. They aim to slip under the radar cone where coverage thins and geometry breaks the solution. The lock falters. The tone wobbles, then dies. The ESM feed steadies, clutter falls away, and clean tracks rebuild at a lower slice of air. The J-20s are still up there, but the window closed for a moment. The sky holds its breath. A stealth fighter pressed the blind spot and proved the point: sensor pressure can push a recon jet to the edge. The counter wasn't a missile. It was discipline, non-kinetic tools, and a hard vertical drop that saved the crew and kept the take. If you want straight, tactical breakdowns of gray zone fights and the systems that decide them, subscribe. Comment your choice below: flare and dive or hold altitude. Meanwhile, the draw isn't over. Those underwater anomalies that pulled the P-8 into that lane point to the next fight, where sonar lines meet air patrols. Above and below the noise, the contest gets sharper.